Like most Americans over the last 10 years, people's opinion on this issue have evolved. And I found myself, like any other American, my position evolving over the years. But I never really thought much about it until Kevin and I began conversations 4 or 5, 6 months ago. And I thought to myself, this might be something that I could lend my voice to that makes sense.
And the fact that you're joining the board, does that mean now you see a path in which either state regulations spread like wildfire or the federal level begins to embrace this instead of reject it?
Well, 29 states have had a vote, either a referendum or their state legislature voted to legalize the use of cannabis in some form. But there's a big conflict with the federal law where it's a Schedule I narcotic. Congress over the last couple of years has pretty much stopped any real enforcement. But federally funded institutions cannot touch this, can't do research. Most every university takes federal funds. They don't get anywhere close to it. You get the banking system that is scared to death to take this money, so there's a lot of cash rolling around. And so it's time for the federal government to take another look at this. And I think descheduling this drug, allowing for the research, would be very helpful to the American people.
Hasn't the Trump administration, Kevin, moved in the opposite direction here, especially under Attorney General Jeff Sessions?
Well, the Attorney General just decided he was not going to abide by the letter that Eric Holder had issued, where they basically said they weren't going to enforce it. I think what Sessions is doing is basically pushing the Congress to act.
You think there will be any action, Mr. Murphy? You think there's any change? It seems hard to imagine at this point we're going to see any action on this particular issue. And Mr. Sessions is being very aggressive, it would seem, in terms of pushing what many say is an antiquated view, still calling it a gateway drug, for example, and things like that.
Well, at Acreage, we're trying to change the conversation, and having John, the Speaker, and Governor Weld joining us in that conversation is changing that conversation. 29 states today have medical use cannabis in those states, and those states are growing. States are also coming online for adult use, candidly because states need the money. And given the size of the market today, it's anticipated that it'll be a $75 billion market soon.
Well, the Speaker mentioned this idea of banks not doing your business. A lot of these places still have a lot of cash on hand. Is that still an issue?
It is an issue for some. We bank at a lot of local banks, so it's less of an issue for us. It's our job to prove that this money has not come from illicit activity, and that's really the issue with the banks.
Now, this morning on the Today Show, you made clear you're talking about medicinal use, and you were asked about recreational use. You said, I'm not advocating for that.
That's not my position. My position is the states, under the 10th Amendment, have the right to create laws for their own citizens. And let the people in these states decide what it is they want to do. My point is the federal government ought to get the hell out of the way.
But is Acreage working if referendums come up on recreational use? You push for it?
We have participated in medical states to start. Those states have since voted to make those states recreational, and we have gone along with that. And the reason for that is we are medically focused at Acreage. We don't discriminate against people who want to use the plant recreationally because we have found that more than 50% of people using cannabis recreationally are self-medicating. They just don't want to go through the rigmarole of getting a card or a prescription.
So, Speaker Boehner, are we going to see you lobbying some of your old colleagues on this issue? This is your issue now?
I don't lobby, but I think adding my voice to this discussion elevates the discussion, and maybe a few people in Washington will notice.
What about the hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, who were put in jail for selling marijuana over certainly during your tenure, and the millions who got arrested for possession? I mean,
it was part of my evolution because I got into the criminal justice reform movement and began to see we've got all these jails full of people because they either used some or they had some small possession of it. It's not a wise use of our society's money.
And there did seem to be some consensus building amongst both Republicans and Democrats to change that, but now we've got a Justice Department that feels very different.
Well, I'm a little surprised that the broader issue of criminal justice reform hasn't moved further than it has. There's really a large bipartisan group of members in both the House and Senate who really want to tackle this issue. But they get hung up on a couple of issues, and it seems like it holds up the whole process.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.